The city of Carthage stood proudly along the northern coast of Africa, its walls a gleaming promise of safety and order. Its people bustled through the streets, carrying goods from the harbors, trading stories and laughter under the warm sun. Yet behind the grand palaces and markets, there was a queen whose heart had known sorrow more than joy. Queen Dido, a ruler admired for her wisdom, strength, and fairness, carried a quiet sadness within her. The memory of a lost love, of a husband who had perished far from her, lingered like a shadow. Her people often saw her smile, but only she knew how much of that light was a mask. It was on one calm morning, as the gentle waves kissed the harbor, that the city's peace was stirred by the arrival of foreign ships. The sailors spoke of a hero from Troy, a man of noble birth who had escaped the destruction of his city. Among the weary travelers was Aeneas, tall, strong, and thoughtful, with eyes that reflected the grief of a man who had lost his home, his friends, and his family. Fate, it seemed, had guided him to Carthage's welcoming shores. Dido received him with dignity and care, offering refuge to the Trojans who had survived the war. She was drawn to Aeneas, not simply for his courage, but for the depth of sorrow and determination in his eyes. It was a sorrow she understood intimately, and though they had only just met, she felt a pull toward him she could not explain. Over days and weeks, Aeneas and Dido spoke often. They shared tales of past struggles and the weight of leadership. Dido spoke of her late husband, the trials she had endured to build Carthage into a thriving city. Aeneas spoke of Troy, of the battles and losses that had left him wandering in exile. The bond between them grew quietly, tenderly, like a fragile flower blossoming between storms. They began to spend long walks together along the cliffs overlooking the sea, where the horizon stretched wide and free. The wind carried the scent of salt and wildflowers, and sometimes, in the quiet of those moments, their hands would brush, lingering for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Carthage felt alive in ways Dido had not felt in years, and Aeneas, who had been burdened by grief, found a gentle calm in her presence. The city's people began to notice their closeness. Whispers of admiration for their queen's happiness filled the air, though none could foresee the shadow that destiny cast over this fragile joy. The gods who watched from above had already decided that Aeneas's journey was not yet complete. Love had blossomed, but fate had already written a path that would pull them apart. As the sun set over Carthage, painting the sky in colors of fire and gold, Dido felt a stirring in her heart, a hope that perhaps love could exist even in sorrow. Aeneas, too, felt warmth he had not known since the fall of Troy. Yet even in those moments of quiet happiness, there was an unspoken tension, a sense that time together might be fleeting. And though neither spoke of it aloud, both could feel the invisible threads of fate pulling at the edges of their lives. The days grew into weeks, and with each passing sunrise, Dido and Aeneas found themselves drawn closer. Their shared grief for past losses created a tenderness between them, a companionship that was as comforting as it was profound. Dido, who had learned to guard her heart, now allowed herself to hope, to dream of a life filled with shared laughter and quiet evenings. Aeneas, though aware of the weight of his destiny, felt an unexpected lightness in her presence, as though the burdens of the world could, if only for a moment, be set aside. Together, they walked through the palace gardens, where roses and olive trees mingled, their fragrance carried on the wind. The people of Carthage celebrated the bond between their queen and the Trojan hero, seeing in their union a symbol of harmony and strength. Festivals were held, songs were sung, and for a time, the city seemed suspended in an idyllic moment of joy. Dido and Aeneas spoke of their dreams and fears. Dido told him about the challenges of ruling a kingdom, the nights spent awake worrying for her people. Aeneas shared the pain of watching his homeland fall, the uncertainty of the journey that awaited him, and the hope that, in Italy, he might build a new future for his people. Through these exchanges, their respect and admiration deepened, and love, tender and genuine, began to root itself in their hearts. Yet, beneath the blossoming warmth, Aeneas could not escape the shadow of his divine calling. He often awoke in the night, troubled by visions and a sense of urgency. The gods reminded him of the mission he could not forsake, and each day the knowledge weighed more heavily on him. Dido, sensing his inner struggle, quietly feared the moment when the inevitable would arrive, though she tried to hope it would never come. One evening, under a sky alight with stars, they sat by the harbor, the waves reflecting the silver of the moon. They spoke softly, their voices blending with the sound of the tide. Aeneas hesitated, then placed a hand gently on Dido's. "You have brought peace to a heart that has known only sorrow," he said. "I am grateful for your kindness, your strength, and your love. I wish things could remain as they are, forever." Dido smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I have waited for this, for someone to share both the burden and the joy of life. Whatever the world may demand, know that my heart is yours, in full." They held each other in silence, savoring the warmth of the moment, and yet the truth lingered between them, unspoken but undeniable. Aeneas's journey was not complete, and fate would soon call him away. The gentle flame of their love burned brightly, but it was destined to be brief, a fleeting sanctuary before the storm of destiny would descend. It was during the quiet hours of the night that Mercury, the messenger of the gods, appeared to Aeneas. His message was clear. The time had come for Aeneas to continue his journey to Italy. There, he would fulfill his destiny, laying the foundations for a future that would shape the fate of nations. The gods were resolute. No mortal attachment could alter this path. Aeneas awoke with a heavy heart, torn between the duty that called him and the love he felt for Dido. For nights he walked the palace halls in silence, pondering how to bear the weight of this choice. He had never known love like this, and yet the pull of destiny was relentless, unyielding. Each moment spent with Dido now carried a bittersweet sting, knowing that soon it would end. When he finally revealed the truth to her, Dido's composure faltered. She pleaded with him to stay, to find a way around this cruel fate. "I cannot ask you to betray the gods," Aeneas said softly, his own voice heavy with sorrow. "But leaving you is the hardest thing I have ever done. Know that my heart is yours, even if my path takes me far away." Tears streamed down Dido's face as she watched him prepare to depart. The city, once vibrant with celebration, now felt hollow. The winds that had carried joy now seemed to echo her anguish. Aeneas and the Trojans set sail quietly, avoiding the eyes of the people who had grown to love them. Dido followed them from the cliffs, her gaze fixed on the receding ships, her heart breaking with every wave that carried him farther. For Dido, the days that followed were a blur of grief. She wandered the palace halls, touched the places where she had shared laughter with Aeneas, and felt the emptiness of his absence like a physical ache. Carthage mourned silently with her, yet nothing could fill the void left by the Trojan hero's departure. Alone, Dido's sorrow consumed her. She walked along the cliffs overlooking the sea, where once she and Aeneas had dreamed together. The wind carried the scent of the ocean, and for a fleeting moment, she imagined he was still there. The memory of his gentle words, the warmth of his hand haunted her. The loss felt unbearable, and her grief turned into a resolve she could not contain. Dido constructed a great pyre atop the cliffs,
a monument not for a body, but for a love that had been so powerful and so tragically brief. She wrote letters, poured her heart onto parchment, and set them upon the flames. With one final glance at the horizon where Aeneas had disappeared, she stepped into the fire, allowing herself to be consumed by sorrow. Carthage grieved its queen, a woman of unmatched courage and love. Her people would speak of her for generations, a symbol of passion, strength, and the heartbreak of impossible love. Her story endured, carried on the winds, whispered through the ages as a reminder of the delicate balance between the desires of the heart and the inexorable pull of destiny. Aeneas, far across the sea, would never forget her. Though he went on to fulfill his mission, the memory of Dido lingered, a bittersweet shadow upon his heart. The story of Dido and Aeneas became legend, a tale of love that burned brightly yet briefly, and of duty that demanded the highest sacrifices of all.